Hey, ReMar Nurses, we are back. This is Nurses Week 2022, and this is the very special Nurse Success Summit where we are going to get into the real deal of being a nurse. This is after NCLEX. This is after nursing school. I actually have a very special guest with me. I'm super excited to have her on. I just actually met her today. This is ReMar Nurse. Go ahead and introduce yourself. How are you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Paris, and I am a ReMar nurse. I actually met Regina today in the grocery store, so it is an
Today.
honor to be a part of your summit.
That is how it goes down here. ReMar nurses everywhere. We represent in Ohio tonight. And so we're going to be talking about the ins and outs, the real deal of being a nurse. And so this program is brought to you by First Shift for NCLEX, how to dominate your first 2 years of nursing. And we also have our educational sponsor, Grand Canyon University. They were just here with us earlier. So this is an opportunity for all of you who want to go back to school for your BSN. If you are getting your MSN or your DNP, go to remarnurse.com/GCU. Come on in. This is Nurses Week. We got a whole host of amazing events that we've been having. And tonight is the Nurse Success Summit. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to get into the juiciness of what it's like to be a real nurse. If you have your workbooks, you can fill out the sheets and things that we will be talking about. So we're going to jump right into it. And the first topic that we're going to talk about is this: dominating the job search. All right, Paris. Dominating the job search. So I said this, and again, this is coming from First Shift. And so this is the information that I would give to you if you were a new nurse and you didn't have a preceptor and you didn't know what it was going to be like once you got out of nursing school and this is your first time on your job. So I say this: before looking for a job, you have to assess yourself first. I feel like you need to know who you are. You need to know who you are as a person. I feel like you need to know who you are as a person in order for you to tell if a job is going to be right for you. What do you think, Paris? What do you think?
I strongly agree with that. I can say with my experience prior to becoming a nurse, I worked as a nursing assistant on a med-surg tele unit and in the float pool. So I pretty much got a glimpse of just about every specialty that was out there to really figure out what would be the best fit for me. And when I went to interview, had to take some self-reflection before I went in there, because we'll ask you questions like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? But those are questions that every interviewer is going to ask you.
Oh my goodness. Don't go too far into that. Don't go too far into that, because I'm getting into that. You have to assess yourself first. Now, wait, just give them some background. How long ago did you find ReMar? How long have you been a nurse? What are your stats for a nurse?
So I found ReMar, honestly, like I can't even tell you, because that is how much I use your stuff. And I had used it while I was in nursing school. So
okay.
I've been a nurse for almost 3 years now, but I've been using ReMar a lot. Even after graduating nursing school, I still utilize your stuff on a regular basis to keep up with my skills and knowledge to help educate my patients too.
Oh my goodness. So good. So you've been a nurse for about 3 years, right?
Yes.
All right. So we're talking about how to succeed on your job. So you said this, and I loved it. It's the same thing. You got to know who you are before knowing if a job is going to be right for you. Never go into a position and then expect them to tell you if you should like it or not. Like, you should already have a mentality like, this is good for me. This is what I want to do. All right. So that's the first thing that you're going to fill out in your workbook. So I put this: how to assess yourself, right? How to assess yourself. I said this: just get out a list of your skills, your list of your clinical skills and your non-clinical skills. And so your clinical skills would be like, if you're like Paris and you did nurse's aid work before you got your license, so you have clinical skills. Even if you are a newly licensed nurse, you know how to bathe the client, you know how to take vital signs, you know how to prioritize tasks. These are all things that help you as a nurse, right? You know how to give a report, take a report. Even in your clinical experiences, like for me, I didn't do nurse's aid work before I became a nurse, but I had clinical experience. I worked in transportation in the hospital. I had different skills, right? So list your clinical skills and then also look at your non-clinical skills. And parents, look at this list and tell me if there's something else that would be important or essential for a nursing student to say, okay, I might not have a lot of clinical skills, but I got these non-clinical skills. I'm friendly. I am compassionate. I'm okay with time management. I'm a fast learner. Like there's some things that make you a good nurse that have nothing to do with whether you can start an IV or not. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say the willingness to learn, because every day in nursing, you're going to learn something new about yourself and something new about your patients. So you have to be willing to learn and also be receptive to new environments, because nursing is always changing. So just be quite active.
Yeah. What floor do you work on?
I work in cardiovascular surgery.
Okay, cardiovascular surgery. All right. So that's what we're talking about here. So you got to come in. I think it's a confidence booster too. If you sit down, even if it's just for 5 minutes, and list out things that you are good at. You have to see yourself as being like a really valuable candidate for these positions. All right, let's go on. And so how others will assess you. And it's so funny that you said these terms, Paris, because this is what I was thinking too. So the recruiters usually, they evaluate you with a SWOT analysis, and SWOT stands for strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So let's get into that. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, because I worked as a travel nurse and I literally interviewed probably like 4 or 5 times a year for new positions, new hospitals, and everybody asked the same questions. And I wrote all the questions down in the first shift. You're going to get the same questions, but you need to know how to speak to your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So let's talk about first your strengths. What does it mean to have strength? What are some things that you have going for you? Happy National Nurses Week. So your strengths would be your skills. Okay. What skills can you bring to the table? We listed some clinical skills that you may have as a new nurse. What education are you bringing? Are you bringing that bachelor's degree? Are you bringing that associate's degree? What talents do you have? I know some nurses who have massage therapy. They have massage therapy backgrounds. Are you musically talented? Do you speak a second language? Are you organized? What are some strengths, Paris, that you would say nursing students need to be able to articulate, or maybe they may have them and they don't even know that they are a strength? What would you say some things that people could put on that list for strength?
I would definitely say hard work and determination, because this job is not easy.
Yeah.
Like I said, the willingness to learn, the willingness to be adapted to new environments, to get along with others, because it's a teamwork and you can't do it without your colleagues.
Exactly. And I think you got to have like a thick skin. Like every little thing cannot, a strength, if you have a thick skin and you know how to like take punches, not literally, but just like with what I thought, I was, you know what, in nursing school, this was deceptive to me, because when you got a good grade in nursing school, they'd be like, yeah, you did really good. And, you were cheered on if you did good in clinicals, but it's not like that in real life at all. Like you could literally catch a fatal incident. You could save a patient from falling, and like nobody's there to pat you on your back most days. Most days you get no gratification. It's just what you do as a nurse,
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are strengths that you need to be able to identify with if you intend to do this job successfully. Let's talk about weaknesses. Let's talk about weaknesses. A weakness literally is anything that you're not good at. Okay. Anything that you're not good at. For example, if you lack attention to detail, if you miss things in reading, or if you miss things in in preparation for tasks, that's a weakness for you. What are some, Paris, let me ask you this. What are some weaknesses new nurses might find out they have once they get to the unit? Like in nursing school, you might not feel like you have weaknesses because you're doing so well. You get good grades, you study. But then when you hit the floor, you realize that, oh, you're not prepared. I feel like there's a lot in the beginning.
I can definitely say, even with my prior experience, I was always afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
I was always told that the day that you stop asking questions is the day that you need to leave nursing, because you're always going to ask questions. And I literally take that to heart, because literally 3 years in, I'm still asking questions, even to the most experienced and non-experienced person, because you never know what someone else is thinking. Another weakness, I would say, time management. It's going to come with time. It comes with experience. So don't rush it right now.
Yes.
And you don't know everything. So education is still a weakness, but it is also a strength. Mm-hmm. So never fear that, I'm not going to know everything, because you're not going to know everything.
Yep.
No one knows everything. Not even the doctor, so it's okay.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. You need to be able to ask questions in nursing. You have to be able to do it. And you have to be in an environment that supports you to do that. If you find that you're in an environment and they discourage you from asking questions, they don't want you to succeed. Okay. You should be able to do that. Another thing that I have, and I wrote about it, is that don't take everything personal. Right? If you take everything personal, whether somebody is having a bad day and they yell at you, whether a doctor is short with you, you have to understand there are pressures in nursing and in healthcare that you may not see other people carrying. So don't take things personal. Also, something that I did that really helped me was I would listen to the doctor's rounds. Like every morning, the doctors will make rounds on patients. And if your patient is going through some changes or complicated, stand there during the rounds and just listen to what the doctors are saying, because you will learn a lot about what they're thinking, what the course of your patient might be. You're going to learn a lot about that. So those can be weaknesses that you can remediate. Time management, like you said, Paris, that's something that actually it changes every day. You may have great time management one day, but if you get a new patient with some new treatments, it can totally throw you off for your daily tasks. So time management. Some people are like, oh, so true. Some people are vibing with us. They vibing with us. Oh yeah, we're keeping it real. We're keeping it real during Nurses Week. Okay, let me go back to, we're filling out our workbook. So let's get into the next one, which the weaknesses. So let's talk about opportunities. So for opportunities are things like if you have a new job, right? Or if you are able to move to a new city, promotions are available. All right. Or free time. Having free time is huge. It is huge in nursing, because that allows you to learn new skills, take new action. What would you say, Paris, is the benefit of being able to travel to a new opportunity field in nursing? Did you have to do that?
No. So I'm actually from Cleveland, so I stayed right here in Cleveland.
You found the jobs were plentiful in the city?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to increase the acuity of patients that I was working with.
Okay.
So I like those high, almost ICU patients, but not ICU patients.
Mm-hmm.
But I can say, to get me where I am right now, I used every opportunity to further educate myself. So take advantage of those classes, those residency programs, and everything that the hospital has to offer.
Yes.
Because it makes you such a better nurse.
Yes.
With our particular hospital, we did a year residency. So I had a mentor following me for a year. And then once that year ended, I became that mentor for the next new nurse for that program. And you just never know what these facilities have to offer for you until you take advantage of it. So I definitely say, do it.
Yeah. And I would add, I would be prepared to ask those type of questions for your potential job. How do you support new nurses? How do you like what type of orientation, which I guess we're going to talk about that next here. We're going to talk about one more thing though, the threats, and we're talking about how you evaluate yourself, how recruiters are going to evaluate you. So in your job search, are there limited job opportunities? Do you not have the ability to move? Or do you have a complaining personality? That is one thing that'll be a huge threat. No matter where you work, are you going to complain about it? Are you going to bring that negative energy? You got to watch that stuff in nursing. And then, is there a competitive job market? Those are things that would be considered threats, and you have to be able to turn those things into strengths, into opportunities, into strengths. So here is the next portion, which is how you should assess the job. Many nurses, when they're looking for jobs, they're so eager to get jobs that they don't do these things. All right. So the first thing is to understand the job market. When you're looking for a job, you need to understand the job market. Are you in an area or a specialty that needs nurses badly, right? And it doesn't matter. They need nurses so badly that they will hire you, and you're going to have to really scrutinize that job. Or are you in an area where it's difficult to find a job? And so the employers are really picky about who they hire. Be prepared for that. The second thing is get the name of the person who is interviewing you. Before you do an interview, it would behoove you to know who is interviewing you. And the reason I say this is because just like and you have time to research the hospital, they're also researching you. And so if you can make a connection with whoever is interviewing you, go to LinkedIn, see how long they've been there. Usually most people have online profiles. It will help you to be less nervous about speaking to that person. I remember I looked up who was interviewing me, and I saw that they had a connection to Ohio, even though I was interviewing for a job in California. So we ended up talking about Ohio State at the interview. So these little things help to make you more prepared and help you to have a more successful experience. Okay. And then the third thing I have here is create a resume the jobs cannot say no to. And your resume is going to be really important for you to put yourself out there. So in your workbook, I do have 2 examples of resumes. Also in First Shift, I put a couple resumes in. The first is a resume for a nursing student, a nursing assistant. So even if you don't have a lot of license experience, you still have a lot to offer to a company. Okay. And so Paris, I want you to talk about this because you said you were a nursing assistant before becoming a nurse. So I put this, your supportive skills should be highlighted, right? And I think it's an asset, even if you were a nursing assistant in home health as well, because there's things that you do in home health that can translate to being a very good nurse. So how did you feel like being a nursing assistant prepared you for being an actual nurse?
So in relation to your strengths and weaknesses, you can build upon that with your nursing assistant experience. And I highly recommend that all nurses, before you become a nurse, to have that experience as a nursing assistant or home health aide or medical assistant, wherever that may be. Because it really does prepare you for what is expected in the field and what is expected of your preceptor. So like I said, I started off in med-surg tele and in the float pool. So I pretty much had a glimpse of every specialty that was out there. But I realized that it just takes one thing. Learn how to talk to your patients. They're not robots. They're not well, unless you want to work in pediatrics, they're not children. Just talk to them like they're a person. They have feelings and emotions, and you want to be able to empathize with them. You've already got those clinical skills from school, so translate those over to being an assistant. You know how to bathe their patients. You know how to take vital signs, and you know your pain is your 5th vital sign. Always ask, because you can always tell the nurse. Just
that's it.
Really just take the opportunity to gain that experience, because you never know how much of a benefit that'll be. I was so prepared as a nursing assistant that when I transitioned to become a nurse, I learned to bundle my care, which you will learn, to bundle my care so I can just do everything all at one time and give my patient that time they need to recover and relax.
And I love that, like, especially when you, because I did home health nursing assistant, right, like in my senior year of clinicals. And I love the fact that when it was time for me to be a nurse, I was not afraid to go in there and give my patient a bath if I had time, or brush their teeth, or take them to the bathroom. Like when you talk about bundling care, if you have the capacity to do it, just do it for your patient. It gives you more time to spend with them. And the more time you spend with a person, honestly, it makes you a better nurse. Every patient will make you a better nurse because they bring something different to your work environment. So I definitely would recommend, if you're a nursing assistant, highlighting that on your resume. Don't be afraid to not apply to something because you feel like you were underqualified as a nursing assistant. If you are a new nurse, understand that right now nurses are in demand. So listen, even if a place says they are looking for somebody with 2 years experience, go ahead and apply for that job. Ain't nothing wrong with applying for that job, because right now, I know positions that, of course, they would love to have somebody with experience, but they need nurses so much that they're willing to train, or they're willing to put you in a residency program before that 2 years experience that you get, is available to you. So doing that. Okay. Those are ways to present your resume. Don't be afraid to make the changes that you need to. Don't be afraid to submit it. Now, we are talking about your job acceptance offer, because I'm pretty sure that if you get your nursing license, you will be getting a job somewhere. But it's still important for you to do this process appropriately. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. Take your time and make sure you follow these steps to securing your job. So typically when you get a job offer, there are 3 phases. Okay. They will either call you, or you will receive an email saying that you got the job offer, right? Okay. So yeah, tag your friends, everybody, because we're talking about the next level, All right. So you'll get the informal notification, and that's great. And you can say, yeah, but the whole idea that you want to tell them is send over the paperwork. You want to see that thing on paper. Okay. Now the official job offer, it should be in a letter form. And you need to see these things before saying yes to a job. You need to see, what is your role going to be? When are you going to start? Okay. What benefits are there? And other vital information. Okay. Is there mandatory overtime? What do they say about overtime? Because my first job, there was mandatory overtime, and I didn't read that in the handbook. For some reason, I did not read that in the handbook. And I remember getting ready to clock out, and my charge nurse saying to me, you got to stay another 4 hours. And there was nothing I can do about it. And I found myself working 16-hour shifts. Oh man. What do you say, Paris, about what are some benefits that you are happy that you currently have? What are some benefits?
The flexibility of my schedule.
Okay.
Some employers are willing to work with you, some are not. I know my specific manager, she is okay with me doing like block scheduling, so I could do like 3 days on and then like 4 days off, or however you want to set it up. As long as you meet the requirements and you work the specific like unit requirements, they'll pretty much work with whatever your schedule may be.
That's great. That's great.
Opportunity. See, we don't have mandatory overtime, but they're always willing to, tell you can pick up overtime if you want. We have premium pay. So I do pick up 1 overtime shift every pay period, and it does make a difference.
Okay. Yeah. These are things that are important that you need to know. Because what would happen? What would happen if a nurse accepted a job and didn't know where she was going to be working? It doesn't say where she's going to be working. What does that mean for that nurse?
Good luck. No, you need to reach out to your recruiter and like really state specifically, where am I going? Whose leadership will I be under? Yes. And if this isn't the job that I actually accepted, is there something else that is available that I could be willing to interview for?
Absolutely, because you can interview for a job and then get offered for a different one. Okay, and get a job offer for something different. And so if it does not say where you're going to be working at, consider yourself in the float pool. Okay. And you don't want to be that as a new nurse. You want to have a consistent place that you're working at, because there's experience that you need to get that grounds you to go and be able to do things. A lot of nurses want to be travel nurses, right? A lot of new nurses want to be travel nurses, but you cannot just be a travel nurse. You can't just jump out there and be a travel nurse. You need to have what, Paris? What do you need to have before you can be a travel nurse?
Experience, consistency, and stability.
Yes, you do. You do, because that's going to ground you to be able to do the next thing. All right, we are talking about it. I love it. We are talking about, don't take that job. Don't say yes to that job unless you know the role, the start date, the benefits, and other vital information. You're hearing it firsthand from nurses. All right. The third thing is responding to the job offer. This is the time that you can negotiate for the pay if you are bold enough to do it. You cannot negotiate the pay after you sign the job offer. That's not how it works. You have to do it during the overview, during the reviewing of the terms. And I say this, you got to keep it professional and keep it simple. Don't be nervous about it, and don't come in not confident. Just say, thank you for the offer. I reviewed the terms. I would like to discuss the details more carefully. And you want to discuss them over the phone. You don't want to discuss them over text messages or emails. So ask, please, when can we set up a time to speak? That's it. All right. You want to be able to have a conversation about it. In nursing, you will have to be prepared to have many difficult conversations. And so your money should be the one that you are eager to discuss, right? So if you feel like, or if you know nurses to be getting this amount of money starting off, right, but you're offered this amount and it's lower than what you're expecting, go ahead and ask for that dollar. Go ahead. I mean, the worst they can say is what? The worst they can say is no. That's it. Okay. But right now, the opportunities for nurses, it's like being drafted in the NFL. People are offering you sign-on bonuses. They're offering you free houses, a car, a Lamborghini, whatever. Okay. We need nurses right now. So get in the habit of negotiating. Get in the habit of negotiating. All right. Your pay. I love it. I love it. Good evening, everybody. Tag your friends. We are talking nurses. We're talking nurses accepting jobs. And this is so important because once you accept the job, you have to work it. That's the expectation. Once you say yes to the job, you are going to have to work that job. You're going to have to show up. All right. And now if we accepted a job, let's go into talking about the orientation period. This is a very crucial time, and it will determine whether you succeed or fail. So the orientation, if you're filling out your workbooks, let's talk about it. The orientation period will be overwhelming. I say that because a mistake that nurses make is they forget that in the beginning, you're still a student. Okay. In the beginning of your first job, just because you graduate and just because you take NCLEX, that doesn't mean that you are not a student. So during orientation, I didn't realize that I would not only have to go to work, but I would also have to go to residency classes. Talk about those residency classes, Paris. Them residency classes was long.
Maybe for you, but mine were only like 4 hours.
Okay.
4 hours.
Case in point, 4 hours. 4 hours for a class. I thought I was done with school. Like literally, I was not expecting that at all. And you guys know my attention span. It is very short. So I'm literally showing up, staying up late because I was working night shift. So I would have to work night shift. I would get a day to sleep, and then I would have to come to a class, like a residency class where I'm going over the same stuff I learned in nursing school. Like I was on a cardiac I was on a cardiac thoracic floor too. I'm going over the circulation of the heart. I'm going over the respiratory system, everything I thought I had left behind. No, they give it to you again in nursing, in orientation. Am I the only one? What kind of classes did you have, Paris, in your orientation?
Ours, like really focused on like the conditions of the patients that we get. Because we had taken an assessment before we even started working to see like where our strengths and weaknesses were. And that's how we determined our orientation.
Got it.
So we had like vascular access, and we had, like change in patient condition, and it was like a multitude of courses that I thought, as you said, finishing up nursing school, you thought you were done with, but it's just like a repeat, but in like a 4-hour span of 16 weeks worth of information. Yeah,
exactly. It's like Esther says, I would like that. It is for your benefit. It absolutely is for your benefit, because they want you to know the procedures. When you become a new nurse, they want you to know the equipment. They want you to know, the protocols for how to care for the patients on your unit. It's just something that sometimes you don't expect. You're not prepared for. So orientation can be overwhelming, because not only are you taking patients, but you're still in school. You're still in school, right? Another thing about orientation is that you find out very quickly that nursing school only teaches you the basics of practice. So nursing school allows you to pass medications. It allows you to, read a chart, but there's so much more into nursing that you have to incorporate into your day, that you don't know that until you hit the floor. There are other tasks, and Paris, I'm gonna ask you to contribute to this. There are other tasks that you have to do as a nurse that you don't learn in nursing school. For example, for me, I didn't realize that it was my responsibility to not only be the nurse, but I also had to be a therapist, right? So if I come into a patient's room and something happened to that patient on the prior shift, I was probably going to get it taken out on me. Or if my patient had, they were going through something, I could not do my care until I helped that patient with whatever they were going through. If they're visibly upset, you can't pass medications to that patient, right? You can't change a wound if that patient is upset. You have to be the therapist to that patient before you can do anything else. If I came into the patient's room and they were upset because the bed wasn't made, I have to change the bed first before I can do my work. And so those are things that you don't deal with that in nursing school. Is there anything that you felt like you had to learn that nursing school didn't prepare you for right away? Internet says also an advocate. Yeah.
I would say it doesn't prepare you for the amount, like how rude people can be to you. Because I'm a very nice person. I provide compassionate care. And sometimes people are just so angry that they're in the hospital that they are just like frustrated, and they come off as rude and antagonizing and condescending. And they probably aren't that way like regularly, but because of everything that's going on, or they may have been presented a new diagnosis, they just don't know how to handle it. So as you said, it is like being a clinical counselor that I didn't even know I had a degree in clinical counseling and nursing. Like, so you just learn how to like be whole. Like you have to take in so many roles on top of being a nurse.
Yes. And I think that's what people say when they say you got to see the patient holistically. Like you're not, even though your focus is like the disease process and the healing and treatment, there's a mental aspect of that patient. There's a spiritual aspect of that patient that you also have to address as the nurse, on top of wearing other hats. So you have to, and as the nurse, remember, we're the final stop before the patient can get a treatment, or we spare the patient from harm. So we're constantly checking on pharmacy. We're constantly checking on the dietitian, the laboratory values, the diagnostic procedures. We have to know all those things about our patients, as well as the tasks that we are supposed to do. Right. So we have to know what everybody else is supposed to do, plus what we're supposed to do. And sometimes nursing school doesn't expose you to that part of nursing. So during your orientation period, you definitely will you will encounter that for sure. Also, I would say this: throw away the competitive attitude that you got from grade school. The competitive attitude that you got from grade school, because it doesn't work in nursing. Like there is no room. There is no room for that type of mentality. Like I know there's some people that, you know, you like being the first and you like being the best in nursing class, but it's not like that in the real world. What do you say about that? The competitiveness in nursing? I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
It's cool to be competitive, like in nursing school and stuff. That's great. Getting straight A's doesn't make you a great nurse. Getting straight C's doesn't make you a great nurse. As long as you know exactly what you're doing and that you applied that education to your patient.
I like that. I like
that. Thank you. I can say, I don't know, like just competition. You're bound to make a mistake every time. If you want to compete with the next nurse, you're going to make a mistake and miss what was wrong with the patient and could have ultimately been fixed or prevented at that time. So focus on the here and now. Focus on your patient and what you can do before you have to add other people to intervene, instead of focusing on, am I going to finish passing meds first? Am I going to finish charting first? Because you got all day, all night to do that. Focus on your patient.
Yeah, for sure. It's like it's a continuation of care. Mm-hmm. So honestly, the idea is that whatever needs to be done, if you can't do it, you hand it off to the next person. Not, I'm not doing this. I don't feel like doing this. I'm giving it to the next person. But literally, after you're done, the idea is that the patient receives the same level of care from the next nurse. So you guys are all working together. So I know it may be an attitude or a mentality that may get you ahead in nursing school if you're competitive, but it will not get you ahead once you get on a unit and be part of a team. That's just not the mentality that you have. And if you find yourself having it during the orientation period, you got to lose it. You got to lose it because it's not going to help you in the long run. Okay. Learn how to delegate tasks. This is a challenge for a lot of new nurses because we don't always feel comfortable telling other people what to do. And you have to be able to delegate appropriately to the support staff. I'm talking specifically about nurses being able to delegate to nurses' aides, particularly nurses' aides who are older than you. Like, it was so tough for me. And Paris, you look kind of like me. Like when I first started as a nurse, everybody literally thought I was still in high school. It was just ridiculous. Like I would go into a patient's room and they're like, I didn't know you could be a nurse in junior high. I didn't know you could be a nurse in high school. And I'm like, sir, I'm 25 years old. You know what I mean? But I looked so young. And so there were nurses' aides who were literally like my grandma's age, and they did not like taking direction from me as a new nurse. You come in there and you have your RN, your PN license, and you have to delegate to somebody your mom's age. Like, I need you to go do this or that. Sometimes it doesn't go well. Like, have you ever had that experience, Paris? Have you guys ever had that experience out, ReMar nurses?
Two things. So I can say it was really difficult for me to delegate tasks to people that were older than me, because they looked at me again like, are you even old enough to work here? Like, yes, I'm 23. Relax.
Yeah.
So, and it's still hard. Like 3 years later, like I'm just like, I mean, I can do it myself, but I mean, we're a team effort. So if you can do just one little task for me, I appreciate it. Another thing is because I worked as a nursing assistant, it was difficult to delegate tasks because I thought that I could do it all at one time when I was new, and it's
Yeah.
not humanly possible at that time until you really
Not,
learn how. So
not.
please delegate your task because it makes
Yeah.
all the difference.
Uh, how would you deal with the issue if you were delegating a task to a nurse's aide and they were not doing the task?
Just politely ask, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, like, could you like grab this blood sugar real quick, or
Yeah.
can you just grab like the set of vital signs or help this person back to bed?
Yeah.
And if it's been 15 minutes and that patient has now called again, like, hey, I'm not back in bed yet, can someone help me? Just politely ask again, and
Yeah.
if they don't do it, I'm gonna step up as a nurse and go do it myself, and then
Yeah.
just sit down with them later on and say, hey, I understand that we're all busy, but if you do just have some extra time, just like help out, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's not urgent, but the patient kind of was like asking to go back to bed, and they had sat there for like 20 minutes. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's so tough because you you have to be able to talk. Like I said, we have to be able to have difficult conversations, and you have to not let other people train you. So like if a nurse's aide, if you ask them to do something and they don't do it, they could be sending you a message telling you like, don't delegate to me, right? If they don't do it. And so if you just run and go do it, then the expectation has been met. Like I can tell you to do something and you not do it, and I'm gonna be cool with it. So I like what you said, Paris. You got to go back to them and say, hey, I ended up having to do, that bath, or I ended up having to take the patient, but I need you to do that. So when I ask you to do it, I need you to do it. I know we're all busy, but I can't do those things and get my job done. And then tell them, sometimes they don't know what all you have to do. Like, Mr. So-and-so has hourly, blood draws I have to do, or something like that. Definitely having a conversation about it helps. And you may need to have follow-up teaching, just like we do with our patients. We have to tell them to eat right every day. You might have to tell your nurse's aide to do that too, until she gets a feel of who you are. But you have to be able to delegate the tasks, have to be able to do that. Good. That's good stuff. Good stuff. All right. And then report complaints right away from, especially as a new nurse, if it's about your preceptor. Okay. Especially if it's about your preceptor starting off, because your preceptor is supposed to be there to transition you, to support you. All right. And so if you have issues on the job, if you find like you don't feel safe, or if you need some more support from your preceptor, you got to be willing to talk about that to the nurse manager as quickly as possible. Okay. So we're talking about the job orientation period. Those are just some practical tips that I pulled from the First Shift book. And then I have a chapter called Dominating Your Client Assignment. Okay, dominating your client assignment. And this is who you will be taking care of. When you get your patient assignment, what do you need to do in order to be successful at it? So I have 3 things here. The first thing is coming to work early. There's a benefit to coming to work early. I have here 30 minutes early. I like coming to work early. For me, it helps me to not be so frazzled. I can come in and I can put my bag down. I can come in and I can, just exist in this crazy space that is not like my home, is not like my car. Now I'm in another world and I'm just here for a moment trying to acclimate myself to the day, right? What do you say about coming to work early, Paris? Do you do it? Do you do it?
I get to work at 6:30 before every shift.
Okay, what time does your shift start?
7.
7. And I like that. We're giving y'all, we're talking about ways you can be successful. What's the reason why you come to work early?
Because I like to know my patients before I get there. I usually can develop, if I have like a 4 or 5 patient assignment, I usually can gather the entire report. So history, like the objective things about them and their story and why they're here and what their plan is. I can usually divvy all that up in about 30 minutes prior to the shift starting. So when shift change does happen, I literally just look at the nurse like,
there you go. What are you? Yep.
Go ahead and start talking. I'm ready.
Yep. And people love you for that. Nurses love to give you report if you already have some context about your patient. So I said this, I talk about this in the book. It's called the pre-report pass. And I think, Paris, this is what you talk about. But for me, the pre-report pass is exactly what it says. It's before you get report from the patient, you already have established who your patient is, what they're here for. You know their background. You've read if you have electronic chart, you read the doctor's note about the patient. This helps you to be able to ask the best questions. This helps you to be able to not be, there's some nurses when they're taking report, they're trying to write down everything that the nurse is saying. No way, guys. No way. You should only be writing down things that are important to you. So if I'm taking a report from a patient, I'm going to say, give me the updates. I know why they're here. What new tests that they have done? I'm asking questions. What did the doctor say about this laboratory value? And the nurse is probably like, what? I didn't even know this new lab came in. I want you guys to be so prepared for your patient assignment that if you're getting 4 and 5 patients, you got to be able to keep them straight. Now, in first shift, I have here this is a copy of a report form that I made for myself. And literally it has the things that I would write down really quickly when I'm getting to work early. What's the patient's code status? Where's their IV site at? What is their diagnosis? Are they on isolation? Let me ask you this, Paris. Do you use a form that you take notes on? Like what do you have a form like that?
I wish I could have pulled one up before we started, but
yeah.
My unit actually made like several different report sheets, and there's one that just like sits well with me, and it's like the patient's medical history, and then like IV access, diet order, like how they ambulate and all that stuff, and then there's like the column for the whole story and the column for the plan, and then a little section for like lab values. And I find that to work the best because when I'm giving a report, everything just flows so evenly that the report just makes sense and it goes by so fast.
So there's some nurses that have a mentality that they don't like to use paper. Like they don't like to write things down. They're like, why do you choose to write things? I wrote things down. Yeah. Why do you choose to write things down?
Because I realized that when I write stuff down, if there's an emergency, I'm quick to remember exactly what I wrote down.
Mm-hmm. Yep, me too. And I would write down even the littlest things. Like if I go in the patient's room and they say I need ice water, I literally will put ice water down. I do not trust my brain. That's one thing that I learned as a nurse. I don't trust my memory for nothing, especially when I'm super busy. So I will write down a patient likes peanut butter and graham crackers. I'm writing it all down because you never know when it's going to come up. You never know when it's going to come up. So definitely don't be afraid to get to work early. Know your patients before you take report. Okay. And then the third thing that I have here is this is declining an inappropriate assignment. This is kind of tricky because as a nurse, you are supposed to take your patients, right? If you've been trained to do that, that unit, if you've gone through orientation, then you should be taking those patients. These are the reasons why you would decline an assignment. Okay. Excessive clients. If you have an unsafe number of clients, okay. Being too tired. So for me, in my first job, we did have mandatory overtime. So if I had to work a 16-hour shift, those last 4 hours, I would not take new patients because I would be too tired to start implementing orders, anything like that. Also, lack of qualifications or training for a specialty. I was on a cardiac floor, so I wouldn't take cabbage patients because I didn't have the training for post-cabbage. I was a new nurse. I did not need to take care of a patient whose chest was cut open 2 hours ago, right? 3 hours ago, something like that. Or receiving a patient without communication or report. This is very important. You should never take a patient without getting a report from somebody. Paris, have you ever been in these situations where you had to decline a patient before?
Yes. It
Yeah.
actually happens more frequently than not.
Okay.
And I'm not afraid to say no. Um, because sometimes like you have those managers say like, um, we gave you this assignment because we believe you can handle it. Well, just because I can handle it does not mean that I should always have to get these type of assignments. So
Uh-oh.
sometimes you do have to put your foot down and say, hey, like I believe if you want these other nurses to excel the way that I did, you have to give them those hard assignments for them to learn.
Yeah.
So like I said, I do it more oftentimes than not. But on my unit, we get heart and lung transplants, like fresh lung transplants.
Okay.
And I work on in cardiac surgery too, so I get those fresh cabbages and like all those fresh open heart surgeries. So I have to be able
Yeah.
to understand all of my patients to a level of responsibility that's appropriate for me because I know what is too much for me, and you just have to know what is too much for you.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you decline a patient, do you feel like you get like a lot of pushback for it? Or do you feel like if you state it appropriately and you state why you're declining the patient, then it's passed off to somebody else?
Um, I I state why it's appropriate because
Yeah.
sometimes people just they like to throw um, the heaviest patients on the nurses who can handle it the most. And I
Yeah.
know I can do it. I know I can, but I'm not refusing because I don't believe in abandonment. But I believe that sometimes a newer nurse should not always have the easier assignment when the more experienced nurse has the heavier assignment every time he or she comes to work.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And it's interesting that you say that because you've been a nurse for 3 years, but a lot of people don't understand that is experienced.
Mhm.
Like, if you've been a nurse for that long, you are considered one of the top nurses, right? That's like a lot of experience where maybe some people think, oh, once I get 8 years or 10 years of experience, but it's not like that in nursing anymore because the turnover rate is so high and nurses come in and nurses leave that if you've been in the place for 3 years, I mean, that's pretty admirable for sure, for sure, for sure. Okay, so we gave you reasons why you would decline an assignment. It's not something that people talk about a lot, but I want to also talk about this is a chapter in First Shift. It's called Dominating the Handoff Report. And this is something that you will get better at with time. Giving report and taking report is a skill. It is something that has to be practiced and it is something that has to be perfected because somebody's life is on the line. So these are just some things that you definitely make sure you need to add to your report sheet. If you don't have a report sheet as a new nurse, matter of fact, I think you should have one. If you're a new nurse, I think you should have a report sheet. I don't care what nobody say because 5 patients, 3 patients, 4 patients, that's a lot of information to remember. So you're going to have who you are, giving report, making sure they know you. Okay, they might not know who you are. Allergies, and this is not in any order. The code status of the patient, laboratory tests, medication list, details of the vital signs, why they're there, the to-do action list, right? Contingency plans just means what are the plans for this patient, and then other important details about the patient, why they're there, maybe when's the last time they ate, last time they had a bowel movement, things like that that you are going to want to add. Anything, how do you make report easier for yourself, Paris? How do you do it? Is there anything that you do? I know some units, they have the nurses record reports. I hated doing that. You would go in and you would do a recording. So if the nurse didn't hear something, they could go back and listen to it. Do you guys do face-to-face reports? I think those are the safest.
Yeah, face to face bedside report.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that you do to make your reports easier?
Like I said, I get to
Besides
work early
yeah,
and I
coming to
pretty
work
much have
early.
it ready to go. Um,
Yeah.
and then I like doing bedside report because there have been times where the off-going nurse will say something and the patient's like, "Oh, no, 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 like I don't have that or that never happened." So you get clarification from the patients because they know more about their situation than you do. So always ask the
Yes.
patient questions and just let them intervene as necessary because they, like I said, they know more than you do.
Exactly. Yes. Get at that bedside, give report at that bedside, because the patients will sometimes sometimes they don't update the medical records, and you might have a history like the patient said, I don't have that no more. Don't put that on me. I don't have that no more. I love that. All right. So the last thing that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to close it up, is we're just going to talk about your nurse value and the value that you have as you become a nurse and as you find yourself getting more experience, as you find yourself getting more exposure, as you have higher goals, like if you want to go back to school, things like that. What does that look like? So you're dominating your nurse value. Definitely, you have to improve your critical thinking. Okay. Being a nurse who critically thinks is more than essential. All right. It literally is the difference between somebody living or dying. And improving your clinical thinking, critical thinking is just going to be done by being in positions to weigh consequences. Okay. Being in positions to prioritize care. Okay. This is so important. The second thing I wanted to talk about was nurse burnout, which is a thing. All right. Nurse burnout. So if you never heard of this term before, it is pretty common to experience. And basically it's a state of mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion that is caused by work. Okay. I mean, there's no other way around it. It's just your work environment is exhausting you. And so the risk factors of nurse burnout are long working hours, okay, not sleeping, if you're in a high stress environment, if there is a staff shortage, or if there is lack of support. So I know with COVID, that created that scenario for a lot of nurses who were working in the hospitals, because this pandemic created a very unusual work environment. Have you ever experienced nurse burnout, or have you been close to it? What'd you say, Paris?
I'm actually experiencing it right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I definitely will say that the pandemic has something to do with it, with the long working hours, the extreme staffing shortages. Like we had nurses leave in just like mass droves. It was outrageous.
Wow.
The higher acuity of patients that we're used to, the obscene working conditions, limited resources.
Yep.
Everyone is frustrated. Everyone is tired. So when you notice that you're starting to burn out, it's time to find something new within nursing. Or if you just feel that nursing is not for you anymore, then that's fine too. So to relieve my burnout, I have a lot of friends at work and we do a lot of things. So we have like a sand volleyball team. We go bowling.
Okay.
We actually went on like a group vacation back in February and went skiing. So we find things to do to really reabsorb the energy that was lost at work. And then
Yeah.
I take lots of personal vacations throughout the year. Utilize your
You
PTO.
have to.
Utilize your PTO.
Yes.
And because I feel like I've met and experienced everything that I need to know on my current unit, I'm going into something else within nursing. So just going into
Cool.
another
Yeah.
specialty to really like boost my energy and further my education, because I've been in cardiac for 3 years. It's time to find something else that I could potentially fall in love with.
Oh, I love that. I think that's such a great motto to have when you're a nurse. Definitely take your PTO. It's a benefit, and there's no reward for saying, I never take a day off. I never take vacations. You don't get no reward for that. Nobody's clapping you up. Nobody's giving you trophies for neglecting personal time off. So I love that you take vacations. I take vacations all the time. Because there's a mental aspect. Like it's mental, it's physical, it's emotional. And when you are in nursing and when you're making yourself available to people, to care for them, to support them, it can be physically draining, and it can allow you to neglect your own needs. And I think that's where burnout comes from. It's just neglecting yourself to provide care for others. Man, so we cannot let that happen to us. All right. So people are like, yes, that's good. They're saying that you are smart for doing that, Nurse Paris. They're saying you're smart for doing that. So nurse burnout, we want to avoid it. How to avoid it? You got to address it early. Soon as you start feeling it, you got to say, I got to do it. I got to switch it up. My social support, I got to reach out to them. And also changing the environment. You might have to leave that thing. You might have to leave that job. You might have to transition out, because at the end of the day, your license is all you have. That is your mean of income. And so if you lose it, then it was all done for nothing. All the hard work, all the studying, it was nothing. So you have to protect yourself and your license. And this is how you dominate your nurse value. One more thing is, I would say, continue your education. That's it. I mean, increasing your nurse value means that you are educating yourself. And there's benefits to more education. All right. Not only is it going to increase your nurse value, it's going to improve patients' health when you take care of them. It is going to allow you to have more job opportunities. And it is also going to increase your salary. It is going to increase your salary significantly when you do this. All right. So education is going to be key. And I want to talk to you more about how you can sign up for more education. Our educational partner, Grand Canyon University, they are here. And they have a message for you guys on how you can get started with their wonderful programs. We have Lauren. She is the contact person for Grand Canyon University. So if you guys want to take advantage of the ReMar Nurse Scholarship, it is easy to do so. Hey, ReMar nurses, I hope you are enjoying our Nurse Success Summit. We are trying to get you to a place where you get more information about how to make your nursing dreams come true. We've partnered with GCU and they are offering a ReMar Nurse Scholarship. So I want you to hear all about what it is.
Absolutely. So the ReMar Nurse Scholarship is an opportunity to receive a scholarship for being a ReMar nurse and attending this event and reaching out to us directly.
And so Lauren, what programs do you have to offer the ReMar nurses?
Sure. So currently we have the RN to BSN program, the MSN, which has 5 different emphasis areas, and then we also have NP and DNP.
Yeah, so this is a really great opportunity, guys, because when you think about getting the job of your dreams, taking it to the next level, making more money as a nurse, education is a big part of that. And the hardest step to take is usually the first one. So let Lauren figure out the details, but the most important thing is you want to get your next level degree. Hit the link below, remarnurse.com/GCU to get started with your next level degree. If it's your BSN, your MSN, or your DNP, this is the opportunity to do so. So Lauren, thank you so much for coming here and letting the nurses know that if you need help, contact Lauren, get you back in school. Awesome. Thank you guys. You know what? This has been such a wonderful Nurse Success Summit. We've been able to talk about how to be a great nurse, dominating your first 2 years. Check out this book. It's called First Shift. And right now on the website, remarnurse.com, we are doing an amazing discount for Nurses Week, where we are giving you 20% off of all of the ReMar products. You just need to use the promo code remarnurse.com. A lot of you are saying, hey, I got to get that book First Shift. And so this is the way to get it. And it's going to talk a lot more about how to succeed, how to transition. And so for Nurses Week, we're doing 20% off. And if you get the virtual trainer for NCLEX, you're going to get free worldwide shipping as well. I have to thank my special guest, Nurse Paris. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining and taking part in this conversation. I literally just met you today. Tell them that we just met in the grocery store today.
I literally was just making a salad at the salad bar, and Regina was standing in front of me, and my face was like, wait, that's not Regina. And then I like had to really do a double take, and I was like, oh my God, she's literally the person that helped me pass my NCLEX. So
Oh my gosh,
I'm
that's
so
so great.
honored for you to have allowed me to be on your summit today. And guys, use her. She is literally amazing. Use
Oh
every
my
resource
goodness.
she has to offer, because if I can do it, you can do it.
Oh man, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Nurse Paris. It's a pleasure. And listen, ReMar nurses, I'm a real person. So if y'all see me in the grocery store, if you see me in Walmart, come up to me and talk to me, because you have something that is valuable to my wonderful community. And that's yourselves and that's your knowledge. And so we love to share around these parts. It's about helping each other get to the next level. Nurses Week is, people are thanking you. Thank you, Nurse Paris, for thanking you for me. Thank you. So thank you so much, guys. This has been part of our amazing Nurses Week. We got it going on all week. Tomorrow we are ending Nurses Week with our International Nurses Day NCLEX review. I'm so excited for that. That's going to be full on content. So it is not too late. If you need the workbook for it, we will put it into the link. But absolutely, this is about supporting you guys at every level. You can absolutely be a nurse. You can do it. Like if I can do it, if Paris can do it, you can do it as well. You have everything that you need to succeed. I want to help you get to the next level. I say this all the time. Happy Nurses Week, guys. But you can, you will, and you must pass NCLEX. See you tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, our International Nurses Day. Bye, guys.